Sup, Nerd Amigos, I'm the Jive Talking Nerd, John Norgrove. We've got Julie here. We're back at it. This is the podcast. It's the Horn
and Cauldron.
There you go, podcast. There you go. Yeah, we got it. She got it.
Me?
Yeah.
I got it?
Immediately, it's her fault. Don't worry about it, guys. I was distracted. Anywho, so it's been a minute. And that is primarily because we decided to double feature these first two because this is the first two springs.
Yes.
Fests.
Yeah.
Which is
Imbolc and Ostara.
Imbolc and Ostara, yeah. Okay, so this is Imbolc and Ostara 104, assuming I'm getting that number correctly. 105. I did not get it correctly. For the 105s this year. Okay, so every year we have like a different theme for the blots. What's the word you use?
The Sabbats.
The Sabbats. And so for this year we decided to do like tie-in movie thing.
Yeah.
And what we came across with this set is that both movies kind of work for both holidays, and we've been like upsettingly busy with a bunch of other stuff, so we decided to Captain Planet these and combine their powers. So I guess I'm Earth? I'm not Heart. That's a put down.
I don't remember.
I think Earth and Fire are the boy ones, maybe, and Water and Air are the... I love Captain Planet, too, and I genuinely don't remember any of the characters.
I have not legitimately seen an episode of Captain Planet for, like...
Since the 90 was in...
years?
Since 90 was in the year. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, man.
Yeah, so it's been quite a
So
while.
which Captain Planet teen... variable teen do you think you are, and do you think we are? I'm gonna choose Earth, because generally Fire is like also the Red Ranger sort of energy, and they're all kind of pricks. But I'm gonna go with Earth, because remember, you got Earth, Fire, Water, Air, and Heart.
Yeah.
Heart's the kid with the monkey.
I feel like Heart is probably the thing that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Air is usually
That's a self-burn.
Air is usually like the sporty one, and I can't really swim.
I don't remember any details, but I just remember the Heart kid being a little annoying. So
it's the only one that I remember.
Because he has a monkey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does he have the power to communicate with animals? Is he just
maybe
Child Doolittle?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
Like, not even a little bit do I remember.
I'm gonna go with Earth, and that's just because throwing rocks at people works. Right?
You're getting into Avatar rules.
Well, if I have the superpower of Earth, a clod of mud doing like 10 miles an hour is gonna fucking stop you, isn't it?
It will, yes.
Yeah, stop trying to pollute our atmosphere. Pile of mud. Right? Snowball made of sand. You know, whatever. Baseball made of rocks. Anywho, so our movies for these first two spring Sabbats are Groundhog Day, the illustrious Groundhog Day.
Yes.
And the movie Spring.
Yeah.
So let's kind of first very quickly we're going to quickly go over the movies, right? This is gonna have spoilers for Groundhog Day. If you're concerned about spoilers, I don't know. Go outside and touch some grass, man. Right? When did that movie come out? Like 80-something?
88 to like 93 is my guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I don't need any of that. And Spring, honestly, it's worth watching. Yeah, so sorry about spoilers for that.
Yeah, there will be spoilers.
Where is that available? Spring is available on Shudder, and where else did we watch it?
I think Amazon
or
and
Hulu or something.
Else. You know what? That stuff changes so often.
Yeah, it does.
It's
just
really not worth.
I recommend what's that app that I use for all those movies? I don't have my phone, it's recording. Letterboxd. I recommend Letterboxd. They keep all that stuff up to date. Plus, you can keep lists, which is helpful when you are forgetful like I am.
So before we get into the movies, first let's talk about the themes that we're honing in on for this Imbolc Ostara double feature.
Okay, so what is Imbolc?
So Imbolc is the first of 3 spring festivals. It takes place on the 1st of February, or the 1st of August if you're in the southern hemisphere. And Ostara takes place on the spring equinox, which is in March in the northern and in September in the southern hemisphere. And it's the second of the spring festivals. So the spring festivals in general are about like rebirth and about growth. Rebirth. And
sowing seeds.
Yeah, sowing seeds, like setting intentions, cycles beginning. Also, like, sort of like cycles ending, although that's typically associated with the winter being with the end of winter, because of
like the death of winter thing.
Yeah, like the death of winter. So it's kind of like the end of that season's cycle.
Well, and that's where you get that rebirth, right? It's sort of like baby energy insofar as it's like once you've gone around the Dharma and you're like starting again, you're like fresh, right?
Yeah, and
it's when you first wake up in an isekai, right? Like post Truck Chan's kiss isekai.
Yeah. And like a lot of cultures historically celebrate the new year during this time of year for Imbolc to like Ostara, because that's kind of like when the earth has life again.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're looking at with the energy there. If you want to know more about the individual Sabbats, we have a whole mess of episodes
check
about that. Check those out.
101 through 104 for each of them.
Yeah, but
for increasingly more detail.
We really wanted to hone in on the idea of the cycles of like rebirth and like death and rebirth and life, and like talking a little bit
beginnings,
about new beginnings,
but also the like cyclical nature of these things.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I feel like...
So go ahead and take it away with Groundhog Day.
For obvious reasons, Groundhog Day, very cyclical movie, as well as like, Groundhog Day is like, we wait for Puxatawny Phil to come out of a hole and see his shadow, and then we have 6 more weeks of winter, or whatever the time is.
Yeah.
Whatever the number of weeks you have is.
Yeah.
And Groundhog Day is basically about like kind of a shitty guy. Like he's like a bad guy.
Yeah, he's like a shitty guy.
He's like a shitty person.
Yeah.
Like a genuine, not even like a monster.
Don't let your love for Billion Murfison like
Billion
Murfison.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
He's like a shitty guy.
He's a monster in the beginning of this.
Yeah.
It's like wild. He's like borderline a criminal, right? He's such a bad guy. And he's like a weatherman who like hates that he has to do this. So he goes out there to see
But, like, everybody
film.
loves it. It's kind of giving, like, Hallmark Town energy, really.
Yeah,
like, everybody loves it, and it's a good time,
it's almost
and people are having, like, a festival.
Wivesy, right? Because he's our main character, his shittiness isn't, like... It's portrayed as shitty, but it's not, like, sold up as he's the bad guy, right? This is... Because it's from his perspective, in the first round, it's kind of presented as everybody else is, like... almost Stepford Wivesian energy. Also, he brings the same energy. Like, I feel like it's almost the exact same character from Scrooged.
Yeah, he is like the same guy.
It's like what if instead of fixing your life early in your career in the spring, you waited until you became an executive and then like ghosts had to fix your life because you're like such a piece of shit. What if his
path to evil exec was via weatherman?
Well, yeah, and he broke it down beforehand. It's like that kind of, because he's like a monster in this. But anyway, so like, whatever, he goes through his day, he's being a dick, right? They can't leave because there's a blizzard blowing in or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
The roads are closed.
The roads are closed. So he goes back to sleep at the hotel and he wakes up the next morning and it's the same day. It's Groundhog Day, right? And in the beginning, he feels like it's kind of just fever dreamy and he's confused. And then after the first few rounds, he starts realizing it and he goes like a little bonkers.
To be conservative about it, yeah.
Yeah. He goes a little bonkers. He's pro to use the youth parlance and internet parlance of unaliving. That's a path that he takes for a little while, but it doesn't matter. He always wakes up at, I don't remember, like 6:05 or 6 a.m. or whatever, via
just
the same song.
Just in time to hear the same song, which
and the same weather report,
what Sonny and Cher. Well, put your little hand in mine.
Yeah, Sonny and Cher. So, and then he wakes up and he's back at it again. And so in the beginning, he's resistant to the change, right? To this cyclical thing, this like loop, right? And then over time, he goes from being resistant and sort of like in denial to trying to like sort of like take advantage of the situation. He tries to cheese it. He does. He successfully cheeses it. He seduces a lady by like asking questions about her every time he sees her in a new day. The previous loop, he goes up to her and asks her questions. And then in the next loop, he's like, oh my God, didn't we go to high school together? And just like lies to like hook up with this chick. He is a bad guy for 2/3 of the movie. Yeah. Maybe and then he goes from being like trying to game the system and like take advantage of things to like trying to get himself out of this by unaliving himself in many different ways. Yeah. And then it is played to comedic effect because of the like foreknowledge that nothing can happen. Yeah. Right? But that is like a thing to take into account. And then he starts trying to use it to like better himself. He like learns stuff. We don't actually ever know how many times he loops, but it's pretty heavily implied. It's like years of looping the same day. Like thousands of times, I would argue. He gives a hint when he does the piano thing, and I can't for the life of me think of the exact thing that he says, but he indicates how long he's been practicing the piano for, and that's only something that happens like towards the end where he's starting to like find moments of joy in this. Yeah. Like rather than being also, like booty bizzled about being here, he's like trying to make the most of it. He's not only is he trying to make the most of it, but he's trying to help people. He's trying to like grow, not just for selfishness, but trying to grow other people's relationships. Yeah. Making sure that people hook up. Protecting people from fall. Yeah, he helps that couple. Stopping guy from stepping in the big deep puddle and stuff. And speaking of the like death of winter, there is character, it's like a very old homeless gentleman, who he notices that in every loop this guy dies. Yeah. So he spends a very long time trying to stop this guy from dying. Yeah. Right? For what it's worth, this is also relatively synonymous with him trying to save the two homeless people in Scrooged. The connections between these two movies is fucking wild to me. It's fine. But so he keeps trying to help save this old guy, and he just cannot prevent this guy from dying. Like, even with foreknowledge, even with all of the information. And I mean, this guy knows every step, every second, every interaction. The ambulance person at one point says to him, sometimes it's just their turn to go, or something along those lines. Something like poignant, and it kind of like wrecks him. Yeah, it's very symbolic of the death of winter. Nothing that he can do to stop time moves on regardless, right? So then he makes the effort to make sure that this guy's comfortable, knowing that this is going to happen. Yeah. With the foreknowledge of it. And so it's this sort of like... And then there's like a romance angle to it. Yeah. Which is honestly like the least important piece of it. It doesn't matter at all, But like, it does see him kind of like surrender. I mean, it's just the type of movie. It's not even the time. Like you do see him kind of like once he finds the place where he's able to be like happy, once he surrenders to, going through this thing over and over and over again and trying to have fun with it and trying to have a good time and trying to help people. Finally, the girl, the object of his dreams, falls in love with him, and then that breaks the loop. It's gently allegorical. I mean, it's for sure allegorical to the death of winter. It's gently allegorical to ego death, right? The stages of death, right? Rejection and bargaining, and he goes through all of these, right? But it's also it's sort of like a snapshot of the sort of like Dharma idea,
Yeah.
Insofar as, fucking spoilers, I guess. Insofar as when he finally, like, really, truly accepts and really, truly becomes, like, this better person who uses his loop to make sure that he helps this person and make sure that he says hi to this person and make sure that he does this and make sure that he does that. And he, like, once he, like, really sort of inculcates the responsibility of the loop in himself, once he integrates his shadow, to use the term, right, properly, that's when the loop breaks. And he's able to step outside of this microcosm dharma in order to move on to the next phase.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it is very much death and rebirth. It's very much that sort of like new beginnings, except this is sort of like rushed upon him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the first movie. It's, I don't know, top 10 greatest movies of all time?
Yeah, if you haven't seen this movie,
why?
Go.
And if you have seen this movie, go watch it again. It really does hold up. It is really still good, dude.
It really holds up.
Honestly, kind of everything he's in does, though.
I'm gonna say maybe not, but just because he's been in a ton of stuff.
That's fair.
So like, there's got to be.
There's probably like at least one that's like, ooh,
yeah. But this movie
I don't
really
know. Kingpin's been on of late. And that movie was still fun. Still wild.
So then the other movie is a movie called Spring, and this is a much less popular movie, but
it's small.
Yeah, we absolutely fell in love with it.
When did we see it the first time? Was a couple of years back?
Yeah, like a couple of years back. Yeah. It was on Shudder.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, this is interesting. Let's watch this. And we thought it was going to be kind of like a
monster
movie? Thought it was going to be a monster movie.
It is not a monster movie.
There is a monster, but it is not really a monster movie. So again, spoilers for the movie Spring.
But for what it's worth, we're not going to go. I don't think we need to dive too deeply into some of the fine structures of it.
We actually don't need to give away the ending of it, actually.
Right.
So
the story of Spring is about a sort of standard issue American young man who is like down and out. He's sort of like destitute. He's not in a great place. His mother dies. This is all at the very beginning of the movie, like the first 5 minutes of the movie, right? His mother dies. Whilst coping with the grief of his mother dying, he goes to like the bar that him and his friend hang out / work at, and he gets into a fight and basically crosses with a gang member of some sort.
Yeah, or something like that.
And then like the police are also involved in that, and so he decides because when his mom passed, he was given some amount of money.
Yeah.
Right? He decides to just get out of Dodge.
Yeah, his friend was like, get out of town.
Yeah, because like, you're not safe here. Just leave.
Get out of town. So he
escapes. He decides to go on holiday into Italy.
But he doesn't necessarily decide Italy.
He decides to leave, and he just calls the airport in the most unacceptable phone call any travel person in an airport would ever participate in. Excuse me, I just want to go right now. Where would you recommend I go?
And I'm pretty sure they're like, I don't know, a lot of white people like Italy or something like that.
Or something wild like that, yeah.
The silliest phrase. So he goes over and he like goes and you see
he goes to Italy and he starts off
seeing the sights. He makes some
standard
like,
American traveler. If you've ever traveled over to like Europe or like honestly anywhere outside of the United States, you know that American tourists are kind of assholes sometimes. And so he sort of starts off like standard American tourist.
Yeah.
Right? He makes some friends with some British dudes.
They decide to go to a city. He goes with them.
Yeah, he like hangs out with them, whatever. And along the way, he runs into just a beautiful Italian girl.
Yeah.
And so when his friends decide to move on to Amsterdam or Barcelona or some shit, they decide to move on to another country. He decides to stay behind. And so he gets a local job with a sweet old farmer man and pursue this Italian love.
Yeah. This guy eat, pray, loves himself.
Absolutely,
into this situation.
Absolutely. Dude, this guy under the Tuscan suns.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
He's
Also,
never
another banger
worked on
movie,
an
if I'm gonna be real
olive
with you.
farm, but the old man has, and it's just him.
Yeah.
And he's like, learning how to farm by day.
And learning Italian. And
learning
how to love from this one sweet old man who's just like there to help, who just needs like a strong dude, like a strong back to like shovel stuff or whatever.
Yeah. While he's trying to pursue the woman that he is just like the most beautiful woman he's ever seen. Yeah. So there's like things that are kind of weird about her, and we basically find out that
she is functionally an immortal.
Yeah.
But specifically, she's an immortal like the phylum Medusae, right? Yeah. So she seems to the rules of the trick, all right, are every 20 years she's basically reborn.
Yeah.
By collecting genetic samples, I think you know what I'm talking about, from gentlemen in order to replenish her genetic makeup, and then
which also changes the way that she looks.
Yes. So she kind of like jumps around. She is denoted by having heterochromia.
Yeah.
Right? So as they fall in love, we start getting like a little bit more about her story, which results in a lot of sort of like her throughout history, him having to come to terms with like, it's not an important part, but they do the like him coming to terms with the fact that she has had like a large number of partners throughout her life.
Yeah, because she's been alive for thousands of years.
Because she's been alive for thousands of years, and every 20 years she has to have a partner in order to be reborn.
Yeah.
Right? So this is about like sort of like the springtime. We're seeing the sort of winter of her life, right? This is the end of her most recent cycle.
Yeah.
And the springtime of his life as he's discovering love, as he's learning how to tend the farm, not to kill all the bugs, but just the right number of bugs. How he learns that, and there's like a whole drama about like how they're like the like hustle, the like work hustle that you hear like Americans always talk about, how that doesn't exist there. Like, take time, work, obviously, and work hard, but you don't need to work 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, get it in or fucking whatever, right? Like, do the work when it's work time, but when it's not work time, enjoy. See the sights, go to the beach, talk to the girl, right? Have wine or cheese, in the villa or whatever, go to the museums, learn and explore. And so he learns to like slow down. He learns to appreciate those like little details. And the movie is
and she learns
filled with little details
to like let him into her vulnerability, to trust,
right,
and maybe to love. Exactly.
So I kind of don't want to go further than that about that particular movie, but again it's this like transitional period. It's this like springtime. It's this like youthfulness, even though Bill Murray's not youthful in that movie. That being said, he could have been 24 in that movie. Honestly, he's looked almost identical for the last like 40 years. So whatever, dog. Good for him.
Yeah.
But so like, and this has that like love story angle, and it has that like youthful exuberance angle, and it has that like new beginnings, as well as that sort of like cyclical, like dharmic sort of,
so this really like sort of made us think about like the cycles of death and rebirth, and particularly with reincarnation. While that's not specifically tied to spring, in a way the earth sort of reincarnates at this time.
I mean, for sure, it's like if you have a perennial plant or annual, whichever is the one where it comes back every year. Honestly, I forget every fucking time. I'm gonna say perennial. I'm just gonna go with that one. If you have a perennial, correct me if I'm wrong. If you have a perennial plant, right, it dies back. That bloody pink maple that we have outside. We got this pink maple last year. It's super adorable. I love this fucking tree. It's in the same bucket it was in when we got it, because we got it like towards the end of summer.
Yeah.
All winter, all fucking winter, I have wondered what that stick was in the yard. genuinely, I forgot.
Genuinely. Told you so many times.
I thought the pink maple was down around with the other plants we bought from that place.
Every time you'd be like, I don't know what this is.
I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck this is.
And I'd be like, that's the pink maple.
And throughout the winter, it was just sticks, dog. Like, it did not even look like a tree. It looked like you just like got a Halloween stick, like just like a stupid branch, and just like stuck it in some dirt.
It in the earth.
Creepy Halloween decoration. Right? Like, not at all. Now it's got like these beautiful like light green on one side and like a soft bloomy like creamy pink on the other side. Leaves starting to sprout out of it, so it's gonna look fucking beautiful this year. But it's one of those things. It's just like the Crimson Princess, the Japanese maple.
Oh, the Crimson Queen.
Crimson Queen, the Japanese weeping maple that we have downhill on Kasha's grave is it looks every winter it looks dead.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, like the leaves fell off, but like it's still a tree. It is so dead, bro.
Yeah.
And then, and it's always that like, when is it did I kill it this time? Did it die and I did something wrong, even though that doesn't make any sense?
Yeah.
And then like a month into spring, you're like, oh, there's like a bunch of leaves and shit. Okay, it's fine. I'm just dramatic.
Yeah.
One of those sort of things. So, well, and we have because we live in a evergreen forest, right? Because we live in a redwood forest, and like our blooming, we have a lot of maple trees. I'm beginning to realize.
They grow well here.
Our blooming maple, that doesn't drop all its leaves.
Most of the deciduous trees that we have in the forest are maples.
That's true, yeah. But like our blooming maple doesn't drop all of its leaves. Our cannas, which are evergreen technically, they don't drop all their leaves. So it's one of those things where like I don't think about trees that drop their leaves that way, as just as clearly.
Because even in the dead of winter, there's so much green here.
It's so green, and I have so many plants, and honestly, I have so much fucking winter gardening I take care of also. Yeah. So like, it's one of those things where like, you don't think about that, but it's like it's part of that cycle or whatever. Yeah. And I think that both of these movies in different ways sort of inhabit the place of like growing out of winter. Whether it's like blooming out of winter in Groundhog Day, where winter is specifically this guy's an asshole. His winter is asshole. And then he blooms into a reasonable adult. Yeah. Which I guess is a big ask, right? I mean, you've seen what's going on today in the world. It is a big ask for people not to be assholes. Yep. So like, so you've got that for him. And then in Spring, the movie Spring, it's both the main character, this young American man, sort of like gaining maturity and learning to slow down and like blooming into love and finding this like peace and this calm and this like sort of growth, maturity that not just wasn't inside of him before, but almost felt impossible to achieve at home. There's a scene in the movie, and it's not super important. For the plot, it's important for the characters, whereon he calls back home. Yeah. And his buddy is like too stoned to talk to him. Cause they just, back at home, you just like, smoke pot and drink and like work whatever you did. But like, it was mostly just like party, crash, wake up, hungover, take a shower, party, crash again. Yeah. Classic American hustle, all this sort of stuff. Yeah. And you see him sort of come to this realization that like, he's losing a connection to that way of living because of what this new way of living is giving him. Yeah. Yeah. Right? Which is like very representative of like the springtime of his youth. Mm-hmm. Right? But also the female character, the love interest, right? The second main character, arguably, how she, even though she's towards the end of a cycle, is like doing things that she's never done before, learning to open up, learning to be vulnerable, learning, potentially how to love, but from a different perspective, right? And sort of like how Bill Murray has been in that microcosmic Dharma loop for so long, right? Before he's able to reach this place, we find that she's doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
She's gone through this every 20 years for thousands of years. But this is the time where it matters. And as you learn, as she talks about her history, and as you learn more about her, right, you sort of see, you get this, like, it's strange that this is the time, but you see how through his maturing, she's also able to mature.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, Bill Murray's character matures also, right?
Yeah.
And the, like, maturing of the mind, right? The integration of the shadow specifically, you know, and from my perspective, Bill Murray's character goes through the, like, ego death cycle in these microcosmic Dharma loops in order to achieve ego death so many times as to basically get his shadow forcibly integrated.
Yeah. Well, and we also get to see the ego death of the female character as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we also see the ego death of the young man.
Kind of.
But, like, kind of.
It's different.
And it, like, kind of, it kind of is the thing that opens the movie. So you don't have as much time to sit with it. So it's, like,
it's less about his journey through ego death and more about his journey, like, after ego death. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But you really get to see her journey, and that's kind of who we're focusing on with that.
Yeah.
But, you know, we also, like, there's also a really heavy emphasis on breaking out of the cycle of sort of graduating out of this cycle of the rebirth and renewal thing. And it makes me think of reincarnation and the sort of, like, soul's purpose side of things. So there's a lot of people with a lot of different views on this. So if this is not your view, that's fine. But again, we don't disparage people's views here. So what I think happens with this sort of thing is your soul has sort of like a journey to make in its soul lifetime before it transcends. And you go through learning lessons that your soul it kind of wants. It's like, you know, you as a person, you're like, oh, I think I want to, like, watch this movie or, like, read this book or something like that so that you can gain the knowledge and experience of that. And I think for what it's worth, our souls do the same thing as you do in Rick and Morty playing the game about the guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, whatever.
So, like, I think that you go through these cycles, these death and rebirth cycles, in a flesh mech, like we're currently in right now, until you reach the point where you're like, okay, I've learned everything that I need to learn out of this thing. And then you basically transcend. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that you die, that your soul dies again, but it reaches sort of like a different frequency in which it occupies the cosmos. Yeah. And these movies really remind me of that, as well as Springtime really reminds me of all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, they're all sort of they're all telling the same tale of cycle of death and rebirth, but in different ways. You know, like, it's if you're talking about, like, the dharmic order of things in, like, Eastern philosophy, whereon, like, once you've like gone through enough and learned enough, you can reach, like, nirvana or enlightenment or something to that extent, or whether or not you're talking about, like, some sort of transcendental, like, transcendence sort of a thing. I mean, it's all still part of that cycle of death and rebirth. And even if you're gonna like monotheistic sort of Western philosophy, the same idea comes in the form of, like, achieving the sort of goodness in the self to be able to sit in the kingdom of heaven with those who are also good, right? Yeah. It's to live life goodly. But we also, like, again, like, even like in Christian mysticism, right? You still, mysticism, you still, like, start off null, right?
Yeah.
And though original sin was taken care of because of, like, Jesus, specifically if we're going to talk about Christianity, right? You still have, like, sin and doubt and all this stuff, and you have to work through the effort, right, to like get into a place to make sure that you can get into the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So like, and this same thing kind of exists in every culture. You have your end goal, right? If you're like a Norse pagan, you want to make sure that you get there into Valhalla.
Yeah.
And so that's like a way of life that you want to be able to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, really, when you think about it, a lot of these like ancient religions that we've mentioned and many more have, their vision of the afterlife is essentially life again after this life, which is why we call it the afterlife.
It's regular life, but like fucking rad, dude.
Or like it sucks.
Or not rad, but it's not rad because
depending on what it is.
But generally, it's not rad because you're not rad. Like if you're cool, when you're done with this, it's gonna be tight. But like if you're not cool, when you're done with this, it's gonna suck, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're gonna be like, nah.
Yeah, there's
forever.
Very few examples going back like historically that talk about like when you die, there's nothing. Of course, there are people who believe that, and there's nothing wrong with that.
And there are structures anciently about similar belief systems, whereon they're just like, I mean, you're on now, and then when you're off, you're off.
Yeah, you're although that is sort of that is not the norm when it comes to these sort of belief structures.
Sure.
And, part of that is probably the ego of humans because we want to believe that what we do matters and what happens to us after we die even if
you believe that, or you work through the philosophical lens of like, we're here now, right? You're like a hallucinatory mushroom piloting a fucking mech suit made of flesh. And then when they turn you off, you're just turned off now. No more of that. It's just nothing. It's not even darkness. It's just nothing. Right? It still means that you should be a good person while you're here, right? The wildly insane concept that you need like Sky Daddy to keep you from being a monster is arguably insane, and treats more to the individual's inability to hold themselves accountable to their own actions.
Yeah.
So like if you need Sky Daddy to tell you what to do, then like that's fine. Like you do you, right? I'm not gonna kink shame. But not everybody needs that, bro. You can just be cool because being cool is like cool. It's in the word. I mean, it's sort of a self-descriptive way to live your life. Like if you're awesome, other people are gonna be like, wow, this guy's awesome. We should be awesome with this guy. And then you have like a bunch of awesome friends around you, like surrounding yourself with good people, right? It's the like, if you surround yourself with happy people, then you too will be happy.
Yeah.
Right? If you do happy things, you too will be happy. Yeah. If all you do is sit in a room and mope and are sad, then like obviously you're gonna be like a mopey sad person.
Yeah.
And you're only gonna attract mopey sad people. This is like the reason why confidence is attractive.
Yeah.
Right? Because like, nobody wants to go up to somebody at a bar and be like, oh, hey, how are you doing? And they're like, everything's shit. And you're like, oh, my God, Jesus, okay, I don't want to fucking deal with that, man. It's a Tuesday, and I'm trying to get a drink on. So, fucking nah. So, but yeah, this was a tougher one. And I feel like throughout this year, doing these movies, these 105s, is going to be real hit or miss with
we originally were like,
difficulty.
This is gonna be so easy, and then we got to Imbolc and we were like, we're
like, actually, shut up, we were wrong.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know, like let it out there, comment if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to this on the podcast network, you can comment, or like, I don't know, whatever, shoot us an email. We have an email thing on the website. But like,
find us on social,
or go to the YouTube video and comment. But like, what do you think about these movies? What do you think about like the spring?
What other movies do you think fall into the themes of Imbolc and Ostara?
Exactly.
What sort of movies do you think fall into the themes for other festivals that are coming up?
For other Sabbats that are coming up. And this one, spring, was just one of those ones that was like, kind of hard to do. There's not really like a big holiday. I mean, there's Easter,
but like that's kind of it.
Yeah, and like there aren't a lot of Easter movies.
I mean, there are Easter movies, but they have to they generally have to do with Christianity because that's a Christian holiday.
Yeah.
So, you know, we were trying to find things that fit the theme because we couldn't find anything that fit the
Passion of the Christ.
The thing. Yeah, we're
damn.
just like Passion of the Christ, I guess.
Yeah.
That one about Moses.
Moses? I don't know.
Is that an Easter thing? That's
an
Easter thing, right?
Nah.
No? Okay.
No. Nah. I don't know when that flood happens, but I think it's in the summer. Yeah, I don't think it's like a springtime flood because it's not cold when it happens.
Well, I just figured it wasn't cold because they were like in the desert.
No, they're like, well, I mean, it kind of depends on what movie. Sometimes they're in the woods. In that one movie, they're having giants build the boat. So
I was
let's
thinking
not talk about that
the
one, right?
one from the like 50s or 60s.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about sword and sandal.
Yeah. No. I understand what you're saying. Right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Anyway.
It's all an allegory to the great flood in the Mediterranean that like humans were there for, maybe.
Yeah, or the great flood of Daggerland.
Or fucking anywhere,
which is
Jesus.
like, when humans...
The like whatever like once a millennia flood of the Sahara Desert where it undesertifies and then like re-desertifies because, whatever.
Wild.
Yeah. Look this stuff up, bro.
But make sure you're not looking at it like conspiracy theories.
Yeah, look this up with like adults.
Look at this up with like science.
Yeah. Maybe Mini Minute Man. He probably has something about it.
Or something.
Or something,
So yeah, this was really fun. We both very much love these two movies.
Yeah.
And being able to use them and to talk about them in a sort of
and
like
to rewatch
spiritual
them,
and metaphysical
like,
sense
back.
with this like lens was really fun.
Absolutely.
So we hope that you're able to do the same.
What is question of the day? What is your like go-to springtime movie? If you were to put together like we're gonna do an Ostara party and we're gonna put a movie on, like a movie party, which I think is the better kind of party. If you're gonna Ostara Netflix and chill, what is your Netflix? What is your movie? You know what I'm saying?
Wow, that's a really tough question. I mean, obviously we just talked about these two movies.
Yeah.
But
and I would argue Spring is like a great movie for this.
Yeah. Well, technically it takes place like at the spring equinox.
Yeah,
and
so it is like a directly Ostara
Groundhog
movie.
Day takes place on Groundhog Day, which is like the day after Imbolc happens.
Yeah.
But like other than those two,
again,
what do you got?
There's not a lot of springtime movies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Unless you're talking about like maybe rom-coms, but a lot of those take place in the summer because that's around wedding season. A lot of rom-coms are based around wedding season, which is early summertime. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm
really having a hard time thinking about something.
I don't really have...
Huh.
I don't really have something specific that comes to mind for springtime.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't either.
Maybe Little Shop of Horrors?
Because plants?
Because plants, yeah. It's literally about as far as I went with that. I love that movie, like, ferociously.
I'll give you Little Shop of Horrors.
Right?
I have nothing wrong with that.
I think that movie actually takes place in the fall.
Yeah, or something
or something weird like that.
Although that could just be the treatment of Skid Row.
Yeah. But I don't know, like, maybe like a movie that has, like, maybe like Bring It On, doesn't that take place around graduation? For a good proportion of it? Or like any of the like graduation
any of those
sort
like
of things.
College, like end of the school year kind of movies.
But a lot of those start at the beginning of the school year and work to the end, so that's really just like conclusion based.
I always kind of felt like Caddyshack takes place in the spring.
Maybe.
But maybe I'm just thinking about that because we were talking about Bill Murray.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I don't know. If I think of something, maybe I'll do a TikTok about it. I can't really think of maybe.
We will think of something
inevitably.
Like later tonight or tomorrow, we're gonna be like, oh, you know what works, and then we're gonna be like, oh yeah, that totally works. Why wouldn't we think about this like incredibly obvious movie?
Yeah, you're like, didn't you think about springtime, whatever the heck?
Yeah,
right. Now I'm just thinking about the producers, but that's because of the song.
Yeah.
right? Which is not a springtime movie.
No, it is not.
But
and also
that
a title
song
that we can't
is
stay
hilarious.
Here.
Yeah. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, watch The Producers. Matthew Broderick, right?
I think so.
Yeah, watch The Producers. Uma Thurman also. Weird movie, man.
Yeah.
But a fun one. Yeah, I guess. Weirdly poignant.
Yeah. So,
what's your go-to springtime movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, start a garden. Go plant some stuff. Make your life significantly more green.
Yeah.
Right?
Why not?
Yeah, make your life more green. Our front yard is very green. They've got like a terrarium in the house now. So, yeah, rock and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else, right?
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay. So before we bail out, I said bail out. Shout out to our patrons. I don't have that list in front of me, but you guys are awesome. Your names will be on the thing.
Yeah.
And
thank you for helping us do what we do better every time.
Yeah. And we look forward to hanging out with you guys again. If you would like to join our Patreon, that's listed wherever that stuff is listed. You can check out the website. You can check out the other podcast episodes and our various other projects, which are listed in links on the website. And
if you like what we do, then you can also give us a subscribe, a like, a comment, whatever feeds the algorithm gods.
Yeah.
Share us with your friends, or keep us to yourself.
Yeah. Share us with your enemies
as your dirty secret.
We'll probably fix them. So
or not.
Yeah. Maybe we'll just infuriate them. It's fine. I'm very okay with that. But yeah, either way, I have been John Norgrove. This has been Julie Norgrove. This has been the Horn
and Cauldron
podcast. And we will catch you guys next time. Stay magical, folks.
Yep. And don't forget, breathe in self-confidence and breathe out self-doubt.